up? Hey, family. Welcome back to the 95 Trucking Podcast, the podcast for truck drivers, investors, owner operators, small carriers, and just small businesses in the trucking industry. Today, I have my beautiful co host, Melissa, with me.
Hello.
And we're going to talk a little bit about dispatching. So, owner operators, this is for you. Let's be real. Time is money and every mile matters. But are you maximizing your loads or just chasing cheap freight? Today, we're talking about the importance of dispatching for owner operators, whether you're doing it yourself or hiring a dispatcher. Let's break it all down. So, Melissa, what do you feel is the biggest struggle for owner operators with finding loads?
Finding contracts, long-lasting contracts. Contracts are not easy to come by. You have to build a relationship with brokers in order for them to trust you with their good freight. So I think finding contracts ultimately that's what everybody wants. A set contract, a yearly contract, 2 years. So you don't have to go on the low boards and have to rely
On cheap
on
freight.
cheap freight, right? Because everybody knows the low boards is the last of the last. So I think that finding contracts.
Right. I think knowing how to negotiate your loads, knowing what to charge for the loads, and also having kind of like a cost analysis for your company, knowing
Knowing
what's
your numbers.
knowing your numbers. Yeah, like how much money do you need to operate this company, and what numbers will hurt you. Like you have to know which threshold. Like you can't go under this number because this is going to really hurt you or impact your profit
You need to know
margin.
your rate per mile. What is the lowest RPM that you can possibly take for you, so you can still make a profit. You
Yeah.
can and like you cannot go under that no matter what. And sometimes people, just to not sit empty, maybe for a day or two, a couple of hours, they'll just book to move. But that's not the way to do it.
Right. You got to go into, your costs, your fixed costs and your variable costs. Fixed costs could include, your driver's pay, your insurance, your garage parking. Variable costs can include, breakdowns, your
Right.
IFTAs, your, things of that nature. But let's get into dispatching. Melissa, I know you've dispatched before. I've dispatched before. What do you feel is like, what was your biggest challenge while dispatching?
Well, I got into dispatching completely new to it. Actually, you taught me that for sure. So my biggest struggle at the beginning was getting comfortable making those phone calls and sounding like I knew what I was talking about over the phone. Because those people don't know that you're just starting. You just have to be confident and having the correct information from my carrier, like where does he like to run, when is he gonna be available, just sounding like I knew what I was talking about over the phone.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that I remember when teaching Melissa how to dispatch was like, we do not accept cheap rates.
It was an adrenaline rush, yo.
I'm like, we are going to negotiate this rate. I don't care if it says 400 on the board. I want
We asking for
600.
7. We asking for 7.
We asking for 7 and we settling at 6.
That's
So
right.
there's little things that you have to know, like pay attention to. So like I used to always say, like, pay attention to your weight, attention to how many stops you have. There's so many little things like that, details that some brokers leave behind. Like they won't kind of like
While they're telling you the load over the phone, they won't tell you, oh, I got 2, 3 stops. They'll give you the rate, the pickup time.
right.
Oh, it sounds great. Then you get that Raycon. But wait, you didn't tell me about the second stop?
Right. And some of these brokers are rookies too. So you have to also keep that in mind. Like, they probably don't know exactly how it goes. So that's why it's important that you as a dispatcher ask all the right questions to make sure that you accessorize yourself or educate yourself well enough to make sure that you can complete this load and you're completing it at a great rate.
Right.
So let's talk about, why dispatching matters and what is dispatching. What do you feel like dispatching is, if you could explain it, Melissa?
Dispatching. Dispatching is basically the whole operations behind
The
a driver, a carrier, a small business. A dispatcher is the one that controls the numbers.
It's the
Um,
connector. He's the plug.
Right. The dispatcher is the glue that keeps it all together.
Right.
That's the person that's gonna maintain that relationship with that broker. That's the person that's gonna land you that yearly contract that you're looking for. That's the person that's gonna make sure that your wheels are moving, because we all know if the wheels ain't moving, you're not making any money. A sitting truck is no good. If your truck is sitting, it's no bueno unless you're getting paid for it.
Right.
So
And I think, like, the driver, once he gets in the truck, his priority is pre-trip inspection, making sure he picks up the load on time, making sure that he's doing in-person sales, so he's carrying, the name of the company well, and making sure that everything is, he's, safe himself and also safe on the road.
right.
So I think that brings a lot of pressure. Plus, you have to kind of like mentally prepare yourself and your body for these long rides. So I think, like, having a dispatcher kind of like balances that work flow for that driver. And, when he's busy or where he's paying attention to other things, the dispatcher is making sure that the company is looking good and providing full
Right.
kind of like customer service for that company.
I drive. I'm a driver, and all I want to worry about is getting to my destination safely, not getting into any accidents. So I don't want to have to worry about, oh my God, when I get here, I don't have a load to get back home. I have to sit there after I'm getting loaded or unloaded and to look for a load. No, I want to rest a little because I got to drive back home. So a dispatcher comes in clutch for that time, for my resting time. While I'm resting, my dispatcher is handling my business, is booking my loads so she can make sure they can get me back home.
Absolutely. And I think that a lot of people also kind of like don't know the dispatching, what the load board actually feels like. Once you're on that load board and you're looking for that one load, there are a million other dispatchers looking
Right.
for the same load that you're looking for. So you have to be fast. You
Right.
have to be efficient. Like, you have to know what you're doing. You have to maximize that route. And if you're driving, it's going to be really hard for you to, get that all together.
You got to be
because-
calling. You got to be calling
Yes.
and emailing at the same time.
Listen, my rule is, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm calling, I'm emailing. If it rings, if they put me on hold for more than a
We
minute,
email
I'm
it.
hanging up. I'm
Right.
going to the next load because I have to take the next load, right? We have to make sure that we secure a load and a good load for the truck. So
Right.
it's all about maximizing that profit. But if you're a driver doing that, you are more likely to miss out on, something really
Right.
good.
A dispatcher is constantly on the computer. You cannot be constantly on the computer because you're driving. So that 4-hour drive that you wasn't on the load board, guess what? All the loads got booked already. But if you would have had a dispatcher, you would have been booked to come back home. But now you got to go to your receiver, to your shipper, get unloaded, get loaded, and wait and to figure out how you're going to get back home or whatever.
Right. So basically, the dispatcher it's making sure that you have better route planning, paperwork and compliance. They're taking care of that.
Right.
So managing, the BOLs, all the paperwork, the rate confirmations, the communication between you and the broker, because they can call you and harass you on your phone while
And
you're
they will.
driving.
And they
just
definitely
not
will.
nonstop. Like, I know TQL does it. So for those
What?
who
They for
are
sure do
aware,
it.
I love TQL though. Shout out to TQL. So it's like more driving, less admin work with a dispatcher. So those are all benefits of having a dispatcher, right? What do you feel like? How do you feel like dispatching might hurt truck drivers? Like, do you feel like
If the dispatcher is not like experienced, a go-getter, because some dispatchers just might want to book a load to make their quota. They don't really care about what you got going on. So like if the dispatcher is just doing it because it's a job then maybe they might not go after those bigger loads or those contracts if they're not good with communication. If they don't stay on top of tracking is very important to these brokers. They have to know where their freight is at. So dispatching is literally a 24/7 job. Like, you have to make sure you keep these brokers informed as to where their load is. So, if a person is not into dispatching, they're just doing it to do it, then, it's definitely going to hurt you. But, so you should get a dispatcher that is, like, they're really into the business, they're experienced, and you can really tell off of a person's work ethic. And within a week, you could tell, like, okay, these loads, whatever loads you're booking, they're not working. Like, what's going on? And, you just communicate.
Right, because some people just might book a low-paying load for you just to keep you moving, but is it really beneficial to you, And also, like, you have to pay these dispatchers, right? So they're taking about 5 to 10%
Right.
of your load. So, you have to make sure that it's all worth it for you.
Right.
Does it make sense, giving someone 10% of your money in order for them to keep you moving or keep your trucking company moving? So that's very, very, very important.
So at the end, like, you shouldn't give them the ultimate. Like, don't allow them to just book your load. Make sure you approve it first, like, at the beginning. And once you train them into, if they're new, but if they're experienced, they should know what they're doing.
Right. So, you really have to think about it. Like, is dispatching yourself worth your time, or should you hire an expert? And, I know that maybe vetting a dispatcher when you first get started, it might be a little difficult, but try. Like, if you're seeing that the numbers are not working for you, move on to the next. Like, do not settle or stay with someone that is not really making it work for you.
Right. Dispatching is not only just booking. Also, like, you have to really study that lane. You have to, like, if let's say if your driver's in New Jersey and your driver wants to go into Florida, Texas, whatever, you have to, like, really look how much the loads are paying going down there and what's coming back home. Like, you have to be able to, like, route the truck to maximize the miles. Right. You can't just book anything and have your driver going around in, like, circles and all kinds of ways. Like, it has to make sense.
Right. And so you have to make sure, like, those are some of the questions you want to ask your dispatcher. Are they experienced in that lane or that region that you prefer driving in, or you prefer your trucks to be in? Are their fees transparent? Like, when they give you over that contract, like, does it make sense? Okay, are there going to be any hidden fees? Because,
right.
We want everything on paper. We want to know exactly how much we're paying. And do they have strong relationships with brokers that,
can guarantee you work.
And are they knowledgeable with the market rates and
right.
The trends, because things change very
every
quickly.
single day.
Right, you used to check all the markets on DAT all the time before getting started, and we would communicate about it. She'd look at the map, like, it's red in Connecticut, like, we don't want to go there.
No, red is good.
Oh, red is good.
Blue is dead. You don't want to go nowhere. That's blue. Yellow is all right, but red is the hot. That's where you want to be.
Right.
For sure.
So all those things matter. Knowing how to read the map, knowing how to use the load boards, and being able to sell your company. That relationship between brokers and dispatchers, or yourself and your brokers, is very important. Keeping that relationship.
That MC matters too.
Your MC.
That MC matters. You got to keep that MC clean.
That rating.
Your safety got to be A1. If you're out here missing appointments, booking loads, and getting off the load, your rating's gonna be trash. Like, you have to be responsible. Once you book a load, and the transportation industry, they don't care what's going on. 24/7, things gotta move. 365 days a year.
Absolutely.
So if you book a load, make sure that you can complete it.
Right. You don't want fall off rates to affect your MC.
That's your credit score, your
or
MC.
you're having a bad review on Carrier 411, or having a broker kind of like put a freight guard on your MC. And I think that sometimes things happen, especially if you're doing it all yourself, like, and you're probably trying your hardest and trying your best to make sure that everything kind of like works out, but a broker might be in a bad mood and you drop the load last minute, and he might just put a freight guard
Right.
on your MC, and guess what? Now it's gonna make it 10 times harder for you to book
That's a bad
loads,
inquiry, like your credit score.
like your credit score. Exactly.
You want that 850. You don't want no 525 score.
Right. So, making sure that you keep all that in mind, whether you want to dispatch yourself or hire a dispatcher, is very important. And I feel
I
like
definitely miss dispatching for sure. The
you want to go
adrenaline
back.
rush, you literally go through every single emotion in one day, in 1 hour.
Yeah.
I've been happy, sad, upset, scared, everything. But like I really enjoyed dispatching when I was doing it for sure.
Yeah. And I feel like, what was your favorite load board?
DAT.
For sure, yeah. I think DAT is. We do drive-ins, so we used to dispatch drive-ins. So I feel like DAT was the best for drive-ins. Like, I know a lot of people come to me like, "Oh, can you dispatch box trucks?" Box trucks are hard
So many box trucks.
to dispatch. So like, if you have a driver looking on the, I mean, you have a dispatcher looking on the board for box trucks, like they have to be on it. They have to
Right.
take those ASAP,
Right.
because those go so fast, and you need multiple like load boards. So some of them are DAT,
Truck
just to
stop.
mention some, yeah, truck stop, 1, 2, 3 load board.
Right.
All of these, you might need subscriptions for all of them, and you might need someone on each one
Right.
looking for that perfect load, or the best load for you.
Some brokers have their own load boards, but I didn't really like those too much. I prefer the DAT for sure. My eyes got used to DAT and
Right.
truck stop.
Yeah, some brokers do have their own load boards now. That's just become kind of like a thing, a trend, because back in the day we just 95, I mean not the 95, truck stop and DAT were the place to go. But yeah, now there's a whole bunch of different load boards, which also makes it harder for a driver that's driving to log in to all of these different load boards to find the right load for yourself. So
I had 2 screens, 4 little screens. The Google Maps over here, routing it 1, 2, 3 load boards for the tolls. Like definitely a multitasking job,
Right.
dispatching.
Right, because you want to make sure that you're calculating in the tolls. If you're going to New York, you're
Right.
paying at least $300 to get into New York and get back.
And then the
Um,
stress. You don't go to New York for under 1,200.
Now the market now,
Right.
they-
Right.
800 if you get lucky.
And that's the problem. People are
Minimum.
taking that. You shouldn't take that because I drive in New York now. I drive at night, and I be stressed because they just don't care. The 4-wheelers do not care.
It's just that there's so much competition. I was just reading the other day that those big companies like Snyder, what's the big companies?
JB Hunt,
JB Hunt's, which is
all the mega carriers.
all the mega
Amazon.
carriers, yeah, they only make up 7% of the trucking market in terms of drivers and companies. The rest are small carriers. So all these small carriers, mom and pop, small businesses are competing against each other for this rate. So
Right.
you have to
That's-
keep that in mind, and you have to also like make sure that you're doing something different from your competition that's
What's
going to
setting
make
you
you
apart?
stand out. And that number one thing for you can be your customer service or a great dispatcher on your team
Right.
to
Right.
help you kind of like survive, to keep your truck moving, to build the relationships, to route your lanes the right way. So it's very, very important. I think dispatching is a key component to the trucking industry. So
Right. A good dispatcher.
a good dispatcher, yes, is invaluable. It's definitely an asset to your business. So anything else you want to add, Melissa?
No, just I think it's super beneficial for small carriers, for new carriers to have a dispatcher to help them with the back office situation of the industry, because you cannot do it all by yourself. There's no way that you can make 5 phone calls at the same time. Like, if you
Yeah.
have, other things to do with your life, then you have somebody at home or at the office looking for those loads and making sure all your trucks are good and staying communicated with the brokers. Like, the brokers, like I said, want to know where their stuff is at. When is it getting there? How far are you? They want to know absolutely everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you miss that call, miss that email, they ready to not pay you.
Listen, I'm dealing with it right now. My driver made a load. I mean, my dispatcher booked a load for my driver. He had a 2-stopper. So they loaded him with a full truck, and they gave him paperwork for 1 stop. So when he got to the warehouse, they unloaded the complete
Trailer.
So he thought, okay, so maybe they switched it. So my dispatcher at the moment failed to communicate right away with the driver. I mean, with the broker. All she did was send the paperwork right away. So when we revisit the load at the end of the day, we're like, oh, this was supposed to be a 2-stopper. Where's the second POD? And she's like, her and the driver are like, oh, they never gave me one. So I'm like, okay, we have to contact the broker, let them know that we're missing a POD, that they kind of like, But these guys didn't respond at all till the end of the day, and they blamed it all on the company. So now they don't want to pay at all.
Attention to details, another thing.
At all. Zero money.
You have to read those raycons, and you have to get everything on email. Confirm absolutely everything. If that thread has 100 emails, let it be.
For a load that took about 8 hours of the driver's day. So we basically lost a day, and, it basically cut into our margin profit. And It's very important because we're small carriers. We need all the profit that we can get to survive. So, just a heads up, things happen. But, being very diligent with everything is really, really, really important. So we want to close out, the show in this episode with that, like, owner operators. Whether you dispatch yourself or hire someone, the goal is maximizing your profit and staying on the road.
Right.
If you're making money, you're winning.
Right.
So don't forget to check us out for more information. Like, subscribe, and comment on our YouTube channel. We really appreciate it. If you'd like to come on the show, please reach out to us. And please share your knowledge and your experience with other people so that we can grow together. When you help one, you help all. So we appreciate you for tuning in. Make sure that you check us out, like, subscribe. We're on Instagram, the 95 Trucking Podcast, and we'll see you next episode.
Good night. Good night.
Good night. Woo!